Is that a Fangoria Pride shirt?
Sorta.
I can't hear you. Is
Testing. Can you hear me?
okay, there we go.
Wow. So we are all here.
And you don't look much more haggard for the experience. You actually look energized and innovative.
Well, I'm haggard on the inside.
Yeah, it's all an act.
It's all an act.
So
That's right.
so's Merle.
Don't tell them it's all an act.
The satisfaction is visible.
When someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Are you a god?
Yes.
Okay. It is now 12 o'clock, and we are going to get going because there is absolutely no reason to wait. This day is going to be very low key because we have an awful lot to share with you guys. And I want to be sure that we are relating all of it to the general thought of how do you create projects that move your life forward? Because inevitably, as you attempt to move your life forward, whether it's a first story or a first novel, or in our case, a first theatrical film, you're going to have to be someone you have not been before. And you have to find the place inside yourself that embraces that. So we will get into that. Before I do that, I would like to introduce my co-host, my
Give
lovely
me a second.
co-director.
I'm not quite ready.
Okay, I'll give her a moment. So what we can do now is you guys unmute yourselves and everybody say hi to the people around you.
Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
Hi to the
Lovely to
people
see
around
you.
me.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi to everybody.
Hi, everyone.
That's really great. Yeah, so Tananarive, just put yourself on camera when you're ready to speak. And in general, just welcome to the June 27th edition of Life Writing Live. We did not have one last week, as I figured it would not be wise for me to try to schedule something like this in the midst of a chaos that we could not predict. We'd not been down that stress tunnel, so we didn't know the territory. It's not that we understand the territory now, but we have a much better view of what it is and what it's going to take to do a feature version of our short. What you need to know is that we finished our principal photography. It is officially a wrap, and now it's post-production, which can be a process longer than principal photography. I think it's usually a process longer than principal photography, especially if there are effects are involved, and effects are involved in this particular instance. It's different. It's so different than anything I've ever done, and it's going to require new skills. But what I have to do is I have to find the seed of those skills within what I already know, because you can't learning is a matter of connecting some new information or behavior to something that you already understand. Okay, and considering that babies understand very few things, it's kind of interesting to take a look at how those primary colors, they're afraid of falling, they're afraid of loud noises. They have several different primary emotions: love, and anger, and fear, I think it is. I think that those are the three primary emotions that babies feel, and everything else is based on that. So, I remember one of the things that I learned about Jerry Pournelle is that he had a fantastic amount of information, but it was organized in a way that he could access it. And a lot of it was useful in terms of being able to apply it to the things that he wanted to accomplish in life. So I think an awful lot of people either have information that is not organized, or they have a lot of information that is not particularly useful at specifically moving them towards their goals. So unfortunately, I had a friend who had a fantastic amount of information in his head, but almost none of it was useful. Let's see, Stephen Bauer says, I'm not a fan of the new chat window. I like seeing individual chats in one screen.
I'm not seeing the new chat window.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a new chat window either. So I don't know what he's referring to, and hopefully maybe somebody can reach out to him and
Yeah, I
and
think
tell
when you
him.
do individual chat now, it opens up a separate window. So you have to be really
Oh,
extra careful about where you're posting your chat. I encountered that in some of our meetings, but I haven't seen it here today.
huh, huh. Okay, I'm seeing. Okay, so I guess
I
if it
try to
says
reply.
to
Oh,
everybody,
I'm still
anyway,
seeing the
we'll try to
chat
figure that out.
window.
Tenanarive, I just
Oh,
want
I'm
to.
here. How about that?
Yes, you're
Okay.
here.
Let
You're
me flex
here.
my chair because I'm short. Hey, everybody. Um, Sorry, I was fascinated by seeing the screen capture. Oh, okay. So here I am. Welcome. We are buzzing, recovering, glowing, licking some wounds, but mostly glowing over the shoot. I mean, we had a 3-day shoot with one prep day. The star of the keeper is a minor, 10 years old. So she was only allowed to work, I think, 9 hours a day, which is still a lot for a minor. So we had to get her out the door at 11:30 at midnight, like whatever the time was. There's a studio teacher standing right there,
And her father was
and her
standing right there.
father looking at the time. We might have fudged a minute or two, but literally never more than a minute or two to get her out of there. And I have to say that crash of everyone from the production designer who creates the look of the set, the props, the first AD who's trying to keep the trains running on time, the cinematographer who's setting up his shots, the cast, what do I do in this scene? And the very specific blocking of walk here, turn here, look here, all that stuff is going on. Sometimes with changes on the fly for whatever reason. We don't have time to do a shot of this, so let's just do this instead. It's craziness, and it's the best kind of craziness. And honestly, that craziness was my absolute favorite part of being on set was problem solving, puzzle solving in real time with a real deadline with a group of collaborators who are all trying to solve the same puzzle with you. Even if we're having different opinions about it, because we were the directors, we basically have final say, technically, unless it was a time thing. Like if there's no time, then the first AD is like, there's no time. There's no negotiating with time. But if it's a preference, we're the boss. We're the boss. So it was
Well, it's not, it's not that the first AD had the call. It's
right,
that the first AD spoke the truth.
right.
And the truth is that at a particular time, we lose our crew.
Yeah.
They will walk off. And not only that, but they will rebel. And so it's going to be possible for people to make movies with, AI and in their computer and so forth. But the one thing they cannot have is, or one of the things they cannot have is the thing that they talked about in the movie Fame, where there was this kid who was with the orchestra, but he didn't want to play with the orchestra. He wanted to do it all himself with a synthesizer because he could do all the instruments. And his father, I believe, comments to him that when you do that, you lose the collaboration of all those other artists who bring who it is that they are. And the same thing is true of problem solving. Whether you take a look, so I think that there's nothing wrong with looking today at the fact that movies are all about the mastermind principle. That you can't, that the only known way to compensate for a lack of ability, intelligence even, or resources, is to gather a tribe around you. And to be able to, a mastermind is two or more people aligned in a spirit of complete cooperation. So if you push them beyond that time limit, you not only not stop getting their full cooperation, but you destroy the very magic that you're trying to create. Because what you're looking for is that moment of magic where everybody is aligned to do something. And it is an amazing feeling, but it requires the ability to feel where the group is, to know what everybody is supposed to do. So one of the things that we learned was that the level of organization that we need is higher. I want to be 10 times better at organizing and communicating. And that means both a hierarchical structure, because ultimately you are the dictator on that set, but also a non-hierarchical structure where people are encouraged to collaborate. I think Pixar had that, Disney had that, and to a degree they lost it, because to move back and forth between anybody's ideas are welcome. If you can shoot this idea down, do it. If you have a better idea, offer it. And the fact that at the end of the day, there's going to be one person or two people
In this
who
case.
make the difference. Stephen Bauer.
Yeah, Steve, would you say that primarily that method of organization is that time ahead of time, individual rehearsals on y'all's part, so that you're ready to take advantage of those opportunities as
That's
things
part
change
of it.
dynamically?
Okay, look, in a sense, the director producer's hat, if you're taking the long view, everything from, like writer, director, producer, everything from the initial creative impulse through the planning, through the execution, through the post-production and the distribution is all part of the same thing. Now, I could just focus on one piece of that, just what happens on the set. But if you do that, you are missing. I mean, there are people who just show up and do it. I don't have any idea how they can do that competently. None. I think that they're the Ed
It
Woods of
would
the
have been
world.
there was never a time where we just had a lot of extra free time, to sort of figure it out. Like there were plenty of moments where we didn't have the time, where people were trying to figure out nuances and changes. But if we had had to go to every room in that set on the fly and figure out, okay, so for the first scene, let's have her walk in through this way, and then we'll do a reverse and we'll show her coming in from this direction. We had done all that before we ever arrived on that set. He had a 360 uh what did he do? He took a
A
photograph,
360-degree pan that I wanted to do
yeah, pan of the entire
that
set.
would show a time lapse to a particular effect, and it simply wasn't possible to do it in the time that we had, because we would have been sucking time away from something else. Now you can plan before you get there, but what matters is what happens when the rubber meets the road.
Right. You have to be
If
able to walk
it
away from your plan.
if you're planning, you can take a coffee break in the middle of the plan, come back to it tomorrow. In post production, you can say, well, let's sleep on this. But on the set, you need to have an answer then. You need to have to be able to say, this is the problem, this is what we need to do. So in answer to your question, before production, you have to plan out everything. And I am suggesting that I need to not just use the RPM system, but I'm going to need to get back into the art of war, because it's very much like being a general. Okay. Then there's the actual production. You've gone to war, and everyone has a plan until they get punched in the nose. Okay. So you have to be capable of dealing with the chaos. So the discipline and structure that you developed in the, let's say, 4 months of pre-production then strongly affects the 4 days of actual shooting. And if we'd known what we were doing, 4 weeks of pre-production would have been enough for a 4 day shoot. But we didn't know what we were doing, so I took all the additional time I could possibly get. Now I know how to do it in 4 weeks, and the better I get at that. But understand that all of that pre-production tells everybody on the set what they're supposed to be doing every day. We know how we're going to try to get these shots. We know how many shots we think we can get in a day, and so forth and so on. But the human factor comes in. Murphy's Law comes in. There's always going to be the unexpected. And that's when I think you shine. You know, one of the ways that you knew that Muhammad Ali was a master boxer was the way he shifted strategies in the middle of the fight against Foreman, where he had an insight into Foreman's physiology and psychology that then led to his developing the rope-a-dope, because he knew that Foreman could destroy anything that was standing straight in front of him. So if he gave him a target, he would burn himself out on it. On the set, you have to be able to ask yourself, what are the absolutely crucial images? There is a 60-second version of our movie, a 5-minute version of our movie. We just did a 15-minute version of our movie. And hopefully next summer, we're going to do a 90-minute version of our movie. Thinking about it that way, sort of a fractal sense, what is the core emotional impression we want people to have? Lets us know what things can be collapsed inward, what things can be expanded, what things can be cut away without losing the core of what it is that we're doing. Keeping both the long view and the short view at the same time, that is a balancing act.
I want to tell
Just
the
is. Go ahead. Tell any story you want, sweetheart.
of our greatest test on the set, because we were really blessed, frankly, for most of the shoot. Yeah, we had to cut some scenes we cared about. One of them still hurts in particular. I hope the movie will literally make sense without it. But but we were flying. We were meeting our deadlines. The child was getting off set on time. Everybody's spirits seemed high. And then we're like the last night, we're coming up on the climactic shot. How the climactic shot once again ended up being the very last thing we were shooting, pretty much. I don't know, because that was not how I wanted to plan it. But nonetheless, you may have heard us talking about how Jason was going to play the creature's hands. We have a scene where we see these two creature hands, and we had gone to a lot of trouble to plan this. We took Jason to the SFX coordinator's house. He did a cast. He sat in her chair for hours getting a hand made up. I had checked in throughout the day and seen the work on the hand going on for a very pivotal shot that has to do with two hands. And I won't go much more into it, but on this child's shoulders. That's all I'm going to say. Hopefully, that's not too much. Well, we're 40 minutes away from shooting this. We're trying to plan it, like block it, like, okay, this camera over here, this camera over there. When we get word that the SFX coordinator is saying she needs 4 more hours to finish the second hand, there's only one hand that's finished. Now, 4 hours and 40 minutes, there's a very big difference between those two things. So we're in a situation where our favorite shot, the shot we had spent the most time building toward it, it even calls back to an earlier flashback. I mean, it's a very important shot. We were only going to get one hand instead of two. And when you see it in your head, it had been in our storyboard, it had been in our director of photography's like renders when he blocked it. All of us saw the two hands, and it might not sound like a big deal to y'all, but when we were standing there on that porch after a long hot day, it felt like a very big deal. And we were trying to figure out how can we work around it, which is all you can do when you're on set. Okay, we have a problem. This girl needs to be out of here in an hour. Or whatever it was. It was very close to literally by law. You have to send this child home. So how do we do this shot? And we came up with a fix. There was some back and forth with me and Steve. The executive got into it. We figured out a way we could try to mirror the earlier flashback to only one hand instead of two. We pivoted. We didn't yell at anybody. we didn't even really get stroppy with anybody. We were clearly not pleased, but we weren't taking it out on anyone in particular. We were going to wait to try to figure out what had happened and why it happened. But other than that, it was all about the creative. And then, as if by, say, magic, because everyone in that makeup room started working, the costumer started working on it, the hairdresser started, like everyone was rushing to get that second hand done. They got it done. They got it done enough to do the scene. And then I have to shout out both the young actress, Jolie, the 10-year-old, who is such a little master at small camera movements that I mean, just beautifully done, take after take after take. I only think we had only time for 3 or 4 takes. And then Jason, inspired, we found later, by Nosferatu, had already figured out his approach with the hands, the gentleness with the hands. Like he was performing. He wasn't just showing up with the hands. He was performing the hands. And he did so perfectly, take after take after take, so that we could get out of there. But I think it was like we got this test. We made our peace with what we were going to lose or what we thought we were going to lose. And almost because we made our peace with it, we got it anyway. It's how it
Well,
felt.
look, if you want to apply the magic formula to that, the magic formula is set up so that you focus totally on what you can control. In that sense, it's in alignment with Stoic philosophy. There was a possibility that we could not control whether or not we got the second hand. Now, there was a little bit of stress at one point because I wanted to know why the other hand wasn't ready. And somebody said to me that that doesn't matter, all that matters is what we're going to do now. That's not the way I think. Knowing why something happened, as long as you're not stopping too long to think about it, is critical in coming up with the plan to deal with it, in my mind. What was clear to me was that it was most likely in the looking back on it, it was most likely a matter of somebody did not communicate. There was
Yeah.
a lack of communication
Yeah.
and I take responsibility for that. I think somebody thought that I was looking for somebody to blame. I was looking for how can this be controlled in the future,
Right.
and
It's a
that
pretty big thing.
it's a pretty big thing. And
Yeah.
this is where I say that this teaches me that my organizational skills are not adequate to this, that I'm going to need to grow, because what we should have done was we should have had extremely crystal clear lines of communication and authority between all the basic departments, and we should have been meeting with each department head every day,
Now, and
probably one after another.
I will say, after learning, I had learned in the first days of the shoot to be more proactive about such meetings, right? So that morning, I texted the SFX lady, and I told her exactly what we're going to need today. We're going to need the hands, we're going to need the tar for this scene, and we're going to need this. But I didn't attach times. I didn't attach times. So I was figuring out how to do it, but I wasn't going far enough.
Well, this is where having systems beats being smart. That if you have systems, then there are specific things that you do every day, specific questions that you ask every day, certain things that you're looking at every day. And to a degree, we could have gotten more about that by, reading books on it and seeing articles about it. But really, you have to be in there
Yeah,
because there's too many things going on for your conscious mind. That this is a matter of having the right structures and the right understandings at the level of unconscious competence. Now, what I was trying to say, sweetheart, is that what we did was based on the idea that if we only have one hand, how do we do it? And I had the insight that if we shot in a particular direction, that we would see the one hand we had, and the audience's mind would fill in the other hand. That they would not think about the fact that there was another hand because they'd be focused on this. That's how one of the ways that magic works, is by understanding what is it that people look at and what is it that people see. And why you don't repeat magic tricks more than once, because the second time you do it, they won't be looking at the obvious thing. They might look in the unobvious thing, and that's where it's actually happening. So in a second viewing, yeah, they might notice, where's the other hand? Or maybe I just can't see it from this angle, but I knew that the first time the emotions of it would block that. when you look at the magic formula, map or model. So we had models of people who have been through this before, who talked about the problem solving, talked about the way you have to think about things, and that you have to take care of your crew, and you have to problem solve. So we knew that. The action, we had very limited time. We were, 2 hours away from losing our star. And that gratitude for getting this far then allows us to have faith that we can solve it, and reduces the stress. So I'm not looking where to fix blame. I'm looking for the responsibility, because I'm going to need to take this responsibility more deeply next time. And Tananarive will. And then the intention is to get this done by midnight. The clock is ticking. Get it done by midnight. Clear intention. In we had the what, the why, and then we just had to figure out the how, switching from magic to RPM. And then the C, that core thing, at all times, we had to remember that we chose this. We chose this stress, that we wanted the experience of swimming in this white water, that we have been training all our lives for this, and that if we're swallowing some water and bashing against rocks and so forth, that we trust ourselves to get through this, that this is who we are, and this is what we want, and we're trying to tell a story that has emotional impact. Now, Tananarive and I did not have the exact same view of the meaning of this, but that's okay. In that sense, it creates a stereoscopic thing, that she's seeing life from her perspective, I'm seeing it from mine. We're not trying to beat both perspectives into a single Procrustean bed.
There's some eye of the
We're,
beholder at work here in
that's
terms of,
right.
yeah, how it
And
links.
that is life.
Yes.
So because we knew how we could do it, even if it wasn't fixed, we created the space in which our people could perform without feeling like disaster was over them. And they performed. People stepped up
And I,
because we had created a group.
And it's
Yes.
let me add my spotlight back and then I'll stop. One last thing, and I see Tom, you have your hand up, so I want to be sure we get to you. But one other thing I'm proud of in terms of, because there's so many aspects of directing. Usually you think of just working with the cast. I mean, if only all we had to do was bond with the cast and help them find their character and walk them through the scene. Yeah, we had to do all that. But we had to do all that while we were trying to like overhear this argument happening between the first AD and the camera over something they want to change. And like, there's a whole lot of stuff swirling around. We had a 10-year-old lead who, at every audition, had been able to produce tears for us. It's one of the reasons she got the job. And unfortunately, day one, they pretty much arrived to do a death scene where she's got all those emotional demands on her, and we've literally just started working. And we noticed over time, day one, day two, she was not producing tears. The older actress who was 80 also did some exercises with her to try to help her, speaking as her grandmother, I love you so much. I heard them working together, still couldn't get the tears. Now there was the option of trying to use saline tears. But I thought to myself, you know what? I'm feeling her grief. I think we're going to get it in the performance. It would be nice to have the tears, but A, I don't want the artificiality of the tears. I want to trust this actress and her performance. But B, I also don't want to make this 10-year-old girl feel self-conscious about her performance when I want her head in the game, right? And would I have loved those tears? F yes. But the older actress was not crying. So that makes up for it. And that's all I wanted to say.
Tom, because I think that this works really, really well if you guys ask questions.
I just wanted to give you both high compliments. Um, Steve knows my background is theatrical, musical, operatic, broadcast radio, broadcast TV. So I've been around a lot of production, done a lot of production, and seen when things go wrong. you two have already applied lessons that it takes most people 10 to 20 years to learn, because the blame casting isn't effective, and leadership is a matter of pushing toward the end goal with what you've got in whatever stage that you can. And I hate to think, as you've been describing what you went through, I hate to think of how many hours of rehearsal time I've seen wasted by stage directors who needed to give a performance of
Mm,
uh, their own outrage.
Oh,
Over,
damn, that's a great line.
that is a
That, that's
great
a,
line.
that is a
Oh my
great
God.
line,
No, we are
Tom.
not that person. We did
I
not
have
have
this way with words sometimes. Um, yeah, it's, I'm thinking of two directors in particular, one screaming and the other barking, neither of which were ultimately effective as leadership skills. So you're way ahead of the game already, guys.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to ask the group. I'm gonna unmute. I'm gonna take myself off of Spotlight. I'm take you off of Spotlight because I'm gonna ask a serious question. Just to be, well, we've got 16 people here today. You know, smaller than some groups, larger than others. And I would like you, if we would like a chance to download what happened and to look at various aspects of it as a project, considering that this project, we're the plan is to roll this into a feature. We do the feature, we our lives change completely. Is speaking honestly about what it is that happened here, is this useful to you guys? Because I want to be very certain it's useful. Raise your hands if you consider this to be a useful way to spend our time
because we're
together. We
having
will,
fun talking about it.
yeah, and we will answer any questions. If any of you feel that it is not used, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because what we're trying to do is to teach you how to plan your lives in a way that you can accomplish your goals and move your lives forward with joy. I mean, our goal was to produce a movie that audiences would love, that would move our family and careers forward and have fun in the process. Now, it was what I would call good, evil fun. I mean, it was tough. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But there was no moment in which it was not also fascinating and not
Yeah.
also something that we could celebrate. It's like, oh my God, you know, we're actually doing this. That these people, this is not a student film production. This is a professional production, a studio co-production, an international co-production that is going to be submitted to festivals and that we're going to use as a calling card and leverage to get to a feature, that we're going to be employing people. We're going to be helping people pay their mortgage, support their families. If we can do this right, we're not just moving our family forward. And because of the understanding of being able to handle things technically, being able to interact with groups of people, with the studios, you know, the money people, you know, and our wonderful executive Giselle did not talk to us very much about money. We could ask direct questions, and then we had to push her, and
Yeah.
she'd tell us, but she protected us from that so we could focus on the creative aspect of things. What I'm hoping is that if what you want is to write novels, then you start with short stories and you go to novels. If you want to work in Hollywood, then you would start with short stories, novels, screenplays, or go from short stories to screenplays, or go from short plays to screenplays. And that what we're talking about here, no matter what it is you're trying to create, you know, even if it's, you know, create an opera, you know, new job, this, that, the other. The skills that it takes to do this seem to me to be to cover a lot of the things that we need just to achieve.
I just put, I'm sorry, honey, to
No, no,
interrupt.
no. I was hoping you would do this, and I'd like you to
This
show us a
is
picture of our
just
little actress.
one image. We're purposely, just so you know, in social media and publicly, we're purposely not sharing cast images because we want to make
Okay, well,
kind of,
then I
yeah, we can do
misspoke.
it here. Oh, but it is
No,
recorded.
but that's right. This
Yes.
goes out on
Okay.
YouTube.
Okay, right. Because we want to make it kind of a big deal. You know, this is introducing Jolie Kanama. You know, this is a big thing for her and also the older actress. We want to just give them all the honor. But I wanted to give you some idea of the scope of this shoot. How much equipment? I wish I had several equipment photos like in a row. I'll have to cast about, but this is just one, like unloading the truck, unloading the lights, just to begin lighting the shoot. Let me see if I can find any other ones that are just about the setup that don't have. Anyway, that's just an idea, and if I
Yeah,
see another
you
one, I'll
take
put it
take your
up.
time to find one and bring one to us later. Larry,
Yeah, okay.
Hi. Hi. It's
hello,
it's been a
Larry.
minute. Um, I find this very helpful because my life is a project that I need to move forward. I'm in a stage right now. I'm dealing with a lot on Maslow's hierarchy of needs on the lower end of that pyramid right now. Some big scary things. My mom got some news that was uh, good but not great, and I'm excited for you and what you're accomplishing. I can't wait to see it, but I'm also looking at how you accomplished it because um,
Okay, so
I
allow me to.
consider I consider your results to be something that I look at because you get results, and we talk
So let
about
me ask you a question, and we've talked
yeah,
about this before. Are you
uh-huh,
doing the breathing?
yep.
Great. Are you reading your goals twice a day?
That's been a little tougher.
Okay. So, Stoic philosophy, there are things you cannot control, like your mother's health, and there are things you can control, like the way you react to those circumstances, the clarity that you bring to it. You want to, once you've got those two things, then you have a foundation because you know what it is you're trying to accomplish. So every day you say, well, I can do this piece. Okay. My guess is that you don't have that sense of this is how this one action today fits into the overall actions of the day and the week and the month so that you feel overwhelmed. The
Um, yeah, I feel like that's a lot better. I feel like there are pieces where I say I know how this fits in when I do it. It's not
So what would you consider your biggest issue? The greatest thing, for instance, and I hate to put it this way, except that it's obviously the context of this. What is the thing that's in your life that you feel like, damn it, if I was more like Steve, I'd handle this? Because you're looking at me and you're saying I'm handling things in a way that you're not. So there has to be, you're an intelligent man. You're here because you feel that there's something here. What is it that you think I would do differently?
you talk about it's easy to plan until you get punched in the face.
Yes.
And I feel like when I get punched in the face, I don't always know what to do after getting punched in the
Right.
face.
So what you do then is you practice getting punched in the face. And I mean that I mean that seriously. That at some point you have to get in the ring. Okay. Now getting in the ring, hitting a boxer with a medicine ball in the gut is to get them used to the shock of getting hit. Putting them in the ring with headgear is getting them used to this shock of getting hit in the head. Without the headgear, that's getting punched in the face. That's still not the same as getting in the ring with somebody who's actually trying to hurt you. Okay, but it's dividing it up into pieces. So if you know for a fact that you're going to get punched in the face, how do you deal with that? I would strongly suggest that you be looking, you say, it takes me too much time to reintegrate myself after I get knocked down.
Yeah.
Go through the physical. Go through the physical. The breathing, if you slow your breathing down, for instance, as the carbon dioxide floods your bloodstream, you will start feeling panic. Learning how to relax when panic is knocking is a critical skill in life if you're going to move from any one level to the next, because you know beyond any doubt that if you're going to try to change yourself, you're going to go through the dark night of the soul. It's simply going to happen. There is no way to avoid it. Every single person that you admire who has accomplished anything faced the same emotions that you face and figured something out. Read the biographies. I would suggest every single day, if this is an issue for you, every single day while you are, you build your morning ritual where you are specifically reinforcing the principles. Why is it? It's like you got hit in the face, you got punched in the face. What happens when life punches you in the face? What are the changes that you go through? So emotionally, what happens?
Um, I still feel like when I get punched in the face, there's a lot of a panic that sets in.
And one of the
And
things that I can guarantee you is that when you are panicked, your breathing changes.
Mhm.
When you panic, your breathing changes. So practicing your breathing under pressure, and this is one of the ways that exercise can come in, because cardiorespiratory distress and the pain of lactic acid buildup is very, very similar to fear. They're the same hormone cascade. So learning how to control your breathing under physical pressure is going to have an analog in helping you control your breathing under emotional pressure. They're linked together. So that is one thing you can do. I mean, the idea, what you want is to have 10 different ways to deal with it, because this is a major thing for you. And if you start looking that up and researching that and saying, let me stack these things. I have this problem, so I'm going to try 3 different things every day. I'm going to try 3 different things at the same time. I'm going to, when I feel panicked, I'm going to put a sign on my wall saying breathe. So before I get panicked, because I know I'm going to panic. So it's like, you are going to panic tomorrow. What can you put into place to help you deal with that? So breathing would be one. Our emotions, and I'll say one more thing, and then I'm switching over to Tananari. Our emotions are controlled by 3 things: the way we use our bodies, what we focus on, and the language we use. So what I can promise you is that when life hits you in the face, your breathing shifts, your muscles tighten, you start saying things that are negative. You're weak, you can't do it, this, that, whatever it is that's going through your head, those voices. And you're focusing on the problem rather than on potential solutions. That would be my guess. So I would suggest that you have at least 3 different ways of dealing with it. When that stress hits you tomorrow, one of the things that you do to yourself, I can pretty much guess, is you use guilt.
um,
So
yeah,
yeah, so it's
there's
going to be, okay, Steve's going to give me all this great advice, but then as soon as I get hit in the face, I forget all of it and I'm right back in my miserable self. If you recognize the pattern, you've made an advancement. If once you've recognized that pattern, the next time it happens, you begin the reintegrative process 1 minute sooner, 1 second sooner. You've made you've made progress. So assume it's going to happen. Program it to happen. I mean, it's like, so your whole thing, you might say, I'm going to focus on controlling my breath today. And I'm going to put a rubber band on my wrist. And every time I see it, I'm going to remember to breathe. And I'm going to go on YouTube. I'm going to see videos on how to breathe properly, how to breathe through stress. Watch stoic videos, on dealing with stress, dealing with fear. This is all about dealing with fear for you. So what you have said is, if you could deal with fear better, you'd move to that next level. Great. Fantastic. So the last thing I'll say is, don't be afraid of your fear. Don't be ashamed of your fear. Learn to look at fear as the thing itself and not all the associations you put on it. Fear is natural. It is inevitable. But what you do with it is suffering. And suffering can be avoided. Tananarive? No, we can't hear you.
I wanted to jump in here. I've been following this journey you're on, this grim journey with your mom, and I feel a kinship to you because my mother had a long illness. And I don't know about you, but that was the first time I had dealt with a parent having a long illness. So it was all new and fresh. And she's a very strong, active person and sort of the voice of the family in many ways. So that made it super, super tough. And I just want to let you know that you will get through this. And the thing about the anxiety piece in particular, I hear because anxiety is a big problem with a lot of us. If it's not about this, it's about what's happening in the world. A lot of the time, we're feeling anxiety about things that haven't happened yet, that we're afraid will happen, but haven't happened. It may not happen, right? So that I've learned how to watch the news that way. Like, oh, this is a terrible thought if this happens, but I cannot sink into anxiety about something that has not happened or may not happen. So there's that piece. The second piece is that even if whatever the worst is for you is going to happen, it hasn't happened yet. There's an Audre Lorde poem where she was ill herself, and basically the ending is today is not the day. It could be, but it is not. Today is today. And that was very helpful for me when I was in the midst of anxiety about my mother. And what I enjoy now about meditation and trying to find mindfulness, even if it's just the Calm app and listening to your daily Calm with Tamara, shout out to Tamara, it helps us sink in the now. And in the now, the worst thing, the bad thing has not happened. And to appreciate that feeling of now. And to know that when inevitably bad things and worse things do happen, the person you are in this instance is not the same person who's going to be dealing with that eventuality because you
Right.
will have amassed tools and practices and whatever armor along the way to take you to that place. Like my dad is 90 years old, has severe dementia. 10 years ago, he was driving, we were taking trips together. I would have been mortified at the idea that he doesn't read anymore. He doesn't drive anymore. When I visit, I have to clean him from the bathroom. If that had happened over like a snap of a finger, that would have been much, much more difficult. Whereas now, I am not the same person I was when 10 years ago. I like to help him clean himself. It doesn't take me into an emotional tailspin every time I'm reminded of the things that are different now than they were when he was the nurturer, and now I have to be the nurturer. And I've learned to find some beauty in it. And your journey will be different, and everybody's journey will be different. And I apologize, I don't know the specifics of your mother's illness and the severity of it, and how quickly the onset of the symptoms and what the demands are upon you. But I do know that you can do it, and that she is very, very lucky to have you. And you are very lucky in your way to be able to express your love for her during this time when she needs you. If you work on the anxiety piece, the breathing, the like I said, even if it's just the Calm app, it might not feel like it's helping, but anchoring in the breath in the now and trying to sort of silence the voices that are worried about the worst is the best advice I can give you.
Thank
If
you.
you make the assumption that something is going to go sideways tomorrow, how do you prepare yourself today? It's going to happen. Get out of poor little me. Your mom needs you. And not only that, but your mother is giving you the last gift she has to offer you. When my father was dying of cancer, it was very difficult. It just ate him up until he looked like the crypt keeper. I mean, it was awful. And I had a choice. I could turn away from it, or I could sear it into my heart and remember memento mori, that you're a parent who is dying. If that doesn't wake you up to the impermanence of life and the need to drop your masks and actually deal with life as it is, then you will never wake up. This is a chance to become something more than you've ever been simply by being who you really are. You were made to handle this. You can handle this. The real you can handle it. And if you look at every day as a day and you assume there will be a dark night of the soul today, there will be a dark night of the soul today. Absolutely. But on the other side of that is growth and change and life. If you will do that and not be afraid of your fear, it's like, I feel fear. I feel grief. I feel pain. Those things are real. Those things are real. But dealing with that reality is exactly what gives you the strength to live life with courage. If you do not play any games now, if you find the strongest place inside yourself, it's the what is to deal with what must be done. And you are the one who can do it. The why is both because you love your mother, there's no one else to do it, and because you need to find the bedrock of your existence. And nothing does that like the death of a parent. This is the fire. That if you can pass through this fire, you will never be the same. And this, to be grateful to be at her side. It's like in the magic formula, you're going to want to look into the lives of people who lost beloved parents who are dealing with these stresses. This is every single day. Anybody who knows me, can tell you that every day when I'm working out, I am playing videos or audios that are teaching about just these things, burning that into myself. Because once you get hit, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the nose. So at that point, anything you know consciously is out the window. It's what you've wired in at the level of unconscious competence. And what you need to do is, under stress, you begin your reintegrative process. That stress triggers your breathing. That when you do that, when you set it up so that there's a stimulus response loop, not between your disintegrative process, where you begin to lose focus and so forth, but it's like fear is here again. Let me breathe. Let me center myself. What am I focusing on? Why am I here? That those are software. None of them have anything to do with the underlying organism. There's nothing wrong with you. The times when you are not responding as you should, and you are the times when you are running old software. The new software you want is the one that can embrace a higher level of stress as exercise. So your daily morning ritual could be walking on a hill. Oh, could be playing with a kitty, absolutely. Going into your softness, absolutely. But you also want to go into your strength. That human beings have both softness and strength. And your mother needs both. And you need both. And it's critical that you learn to touch both. I believe it's more critical for men to learn how to touch that than for women, because the judgments are different. However, it's important for all human beings to be able to both be soft and strong. So if you were to walk on a hill and you knew that you were going to start losing your wind, and when you started losing your wind, you deliberately centered your breathing again. That is an analog with losing your breathing during emotional stress. You're teaching your body how to do it. And because your body, emotions, and mind are all connected, if your body learns it, your emotions will learn it too. And if your body and your emotions learn it, it'll reach your brain. Whereas if you only have mental tactics, if your mind gets scrambled, you lose everything. So whatever you do, make sure that you're working on body, emotions, and mind. Does that make sense to you? Let me throw it
Yeah,
back to
it
you.
does. And in fact, every other day I've been walking and getting that cardio in, because I was very physically sick from a lot of my habits, and I'm still waiting to get a physical. It was just scary. I won't take too much of the time here, but since then I've changed a lot of habits and
Well, this is
noticeably,
good.
That's great.
and notice it
That's
has
wonderful.
noticeably impacted my life
Focus on your
because
morning ritual. If you
because I
can't get a full,
don't want to not be able to take care of my family for one. That's a big
focus on your morning
Great
ritual.
inspiration.
You design a morning ritual such that you know if you could do this, you'd be fine. And then all you do is you're focusing on doing that. And because you have control there, if you're not doing it, you can take responsibility. But then you'll have to learn how to have the difference between responsibility and blame, guilt, blame, and
right.
shame. So it's every day, one day at a time. So today, make sure that you're consciously, accepting stress into your life and observing. And you'll need to do that until it gets to unconscious competence. Tomorrow, there's going to be an emergency. So what do you need to do in the first 5, 10, 15 minutes of the day to prepare yourself for that inevitable emergency? What do you need to do, Larry?
Get up, breathe, and for me, it's committing to no matter how tired I feel, and we have to get up early to do this, which I'm not used to because it's going to be super hot. But I'm going to push through that feeling of, well, I just want to go back to sleep, and I'm going to get on the trail and move my ass.
Okay. And the other thing you want to do is to ask yourself, who are you? And while you're on the trail, get a pair of headphones. Listen to some positive input while you're walking. That time, that first hour of the day is the critical time you need to program yourself for the rest of your life. So you're fighting to get to the first hour, but if all you've got is the first 10 minutes, that's still hellaciously better than most people. You look at your goals for the day. You remind yourself who you are. You are the person who can do this with honor. Okay? What are you committed to? That first 10 minutes you're sharpening your axe. Don't jump into the day. Don't start chopping trees until you've sharpened your axe. Okay? And keep letting us know how this is going. But, like over on the Life Writing site, www.lifewrite.com, one of the best things people can do is say what your morning ritual is. Because if you can control that, you control the rest of your day. And it's good to see you, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay, so who is next? Who has a question, comment, or request about anything that we're covering here? And Jaime.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Stephen. Hi, Tananarive. I just wanted to touch bases. Watching you go through this process of developing the screenplay, all of the pre work, having your photo shoot has been incredibly useful as I go through my own life, learning how to practice all of the stuff that we talk about here
Right.
weekly on multiple different levels because I work on it in my day-to-day life, I work on it in my professional life, I work on it in my community and social life, and it's thrilling to watch you go through the process of that at the same time as I'm doing it and having those same
Good.
experiences. I'm getting ready to go to Canada for a week. I leave next Monday night at midnight. Um, it's to go to Vancouver, British Columbia, to join the International Convention of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's Alcoholics Anonymous's 90th anniversary this year. And I've gone to their international conferences 5 out of the 7 times that they've had them since I got sober 37 years ago. I didn't go to the one in San Antonio, Texas, or the one in Atlanta, Georgia, because this Alaskan cannot handle those locations the first week of July. Just not. But they're in
Understood.
Vancouver, British Columbia, so I'm really excited that it's in a location I'm comfortable at.
Allow me to ask you a question.
Uh huh.
It is my impression that the basic principles of Alcoholics Anonymous and the basic principles of Stoicism overlap very interestingly. To change the things you can change and to know the difference between what you can and
Huge,
can't change.
huge overlap. And certainly, because getting clean and sober was the beginning of my life getting back on track. And then I think about all the different mentors that I've had over the years, you and Tananarive being sort of the newest addition into my life within the last 4 or 5 years. Um, the kind of daily gratitude that occurs now by focusing on the breathing, by having that solid morning ritual,
Yes.
by being able to cope with the challenges that appear in life on a daily basis. It's gotten to a spot now where, for me, if I get through a day and I meet the challenges without making any mistakes that I'm going to have to go back and correct later, it is a red letter banner terrific victory of a day.
Now, say, let me pause you right there. You said something very important. Make it easy to celebrate. Make it easy to celebrate. Most people make it hard to celebrate and easy to get depressed.
Right.
That's what the average person does. Celebrate your toast coming out right. I mean,
Right.
seriously, celebrate my dog crapped. It was a healthy stool. Yay! I mean, that if you are motor set that way, you're filling your battery.
Yeah.
Energy is emotional energy is so critical. When you feel full of energy, it's easier to deal with the challenges that life throws you. So in the on the life writing site and here in chat, please do share the details of your morning ritual, starting with the breathing,
Okay. Okay.
reading your goals, but how do you set yourself up? Because you seem to be having a positive experience of life, Jaime.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you.
It's remarkable to me that um, I, I chuckle at that I used to pride myself on my intellect and my talents, and
Uh-huh.
now I pride myself that even if I'm a slow learner on some things, I finally did learn them so that I can enjoy today.
See,
You know?
that's the difference between intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence is problem solving. Wisdom is solving the right problems. And
Yeah.
the core problem is, how can we be happy? How
Yeah.
can we be happy in the world? How can we be content? How can we love ourselves and how can we love each other? That's those are
I
those are the right questions. You're
I
asking yourself better questions.
I remember coming here as my father was dying in December and early January, and talking about my need for balance because I had this tendency in the past of overcorrecting and staying off balance. And I feel like within the last 3 or 4 months, I'm riding the wave. I'm actually surfing.
For
And
God's sake, please share what you're doing, and I cannot tell you enough that I can talk about these principles and I can do all I can to talk about how I'm using them. But it's the way each and every one of you adapts them to your life and then adds your own, puts your own spin on it. That's what helps people understand how to use these things. I'm so I'm so happy for you, and I hope I'm emphasizing with sufficient clarity how important it is that you
yeah,
share what is
Ye-
happening with you.
I get that, and I look forward to that. I didn't want to take up too much time. I just wanted to comment how excited I am to go to Canada for a week.
Congratulations.
I'm afraid, being a gay Latino, that I'll have trouble getting home and that they might not
Oh
let me
Lord.
back in. But
Amen.
there are worse places to get stuck than Canada.
True,
And
especially
Absolutely.
Vancouver. Great
right,
food in
right. I mean, it's
Vancouver,
a
by the way.
gorgeous city.
Yeah.
But then the other thing, just to share about all this, I used to beat myself up with to-do lists and the fact that I told myself I wanted to do things and then I never followed through. And starting with this breathing and with the writing with the one sentence a day and applying that principle to all of my life and everything that I do, I am crossing shit off of the to-do list that has been there for years, and I am making progress on things. So, again, thank you. And for anybody else that's struggling with some of this stuff, it really is as simple as just breathe.
Jaime, let me tell you one of the
Thank you
reasons
for
why
that.
it's critical that you step up. We have to vacate a rung on the ladder. We have to step up to a new rung, and we have to focus on this opportunity our family has. We don't want to leave anybody behind, but it's important for us to talk about things. And there are going to be people who hear us talking about making a movie and they're just trying to get a story sold, right? And they're going to say to themselves, well, what Steve's talking about is at too high a level. Okay.
Mm.
But someone like you, in terms of the creative aspect, not the other aspects of your life, I'm sure you could lead me in many aspects of life. Someone like you is in between where I am and where they are. And you can talk to them in ways that I might not. They say, I'm afraid, I don't have Steve's skill, I don't have Steve's talent, I don't have this, I don't have that. And you can communicate to them. If we have a commitment to helping people, we cannot be afraid. We cannot be limited by our fear of leaving our tribe behind. But if we are creating leaders who can communicate, now we can feel free to run forward as fast as we possibly can and report back what the territory is and so forth, without any fear, because Jaime is there, and others are there who will can show, not by just by example, but theory and example of how to do it. So
Hmm.
I believe that you are a leader, Jaime,
Well, thank
and I
you.
want to thank you for being part of the tribe.
Yeah, thank you. And I won't be able to be here next week because I'll be at that convention. But
Hmm.
I love you all, and I'm so grateful for these sessions because
Yeah,
they have changed my life, and
fantastic,
it
fantastic.
works.
Well, you're changing your life. If we're providing you a stick, you're using it as a lever. So that's great. That's great. So let's
Hey,
move
can I
on
real
here.
quickly?
Yes.
I found some other pictures just
Yes.
from the shoot to show kind of the scope of the mastermind group and the amount of funding, frankly, it took to make this movie. So let me go ahead and just pull up some of the photos that I pulled up. I might have to do them one at a time. So this is set up, I believe, might have been day one. We found a house in Los Angeles that was a little rundown, actually a lot rundown, which was the perfect setting for the grandmother's house. So that's setting up here. Let me see. And can you all still see my screen? Or
Yeah.
did I get rid? Great. Well, this is, oh,
No,
where'd it
you
go?
just jumped out of it.
How about now? Okay, I'll
You
get
sh
back to it. I'll get
Yeah.
back to it. It's an easy fix. This is part of the mastermind group, the first AD, the train conductor, is on the far right. Next to her in the baseball hat is the executive from Black Male Productions, which is Malcolm Lee's company, which did The Best Man and Girls Trip. The lady in the print shirt is me. The man in the director shirt is Steve. Michael Yanovich, who's one of Steve's Facebook friends, has known him for years via social media and fandom, is an incredible editor who can, and it's very rare to have the editor on set. I don't know if
Yeah,
any of you have ever
let's
been in the
pause for
industry.
just a second. We had our editor and our digital effects guy on set. That is amazing because they were able to tell us exactly how we needed to shoot things so that they could do their job best. Michael
Yeah, you didn't
Yanovich,
have to shoot two or three more takes, just in case the editor would need it.
I think part of that was that Michael knew that we were new directors and wanted us to have a successful experience. So he was acting like a lobe of our brain. This is the shot that you need here, and then you need to back that up with this, and then we need to have safety shots here, 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 and here. It's like because we did not let our ego get into it, we were able to open ourselves and absorb the wisdom of this man who took his time to come to the set. He did not need to do that. He did
Trust me,
not
nobody
need
was
to do
getting
that.
paid very much.
That's right. Well, and he is only paid for what he does on his laptop at home, the editing on the computer at home. For him to show up on the set, that's love. We had in our effects guy is going beyond what we can pay him for
No,
because
it's what he's gonna do. It's worth tens of thousands of dollars.
that's right. And I think that the only way that happens is if they come to the set and they can feel the energy. They can feel that this is a project that they can be proud of, that this is a project that they can get behind, that is doing something positive, that we're treating people with decency and respect and affection. That makes people want to do more. They want to be involved. So I wanted to use Michael as a real example of that, and Alicia, who was our first AD, who she's a pixie at certain times, but boy, she's an absolute slave driver at others.
General,
She
general.
she she was what we needed. She was what we needed, and we could not have done this without her. Looking at this, and then Kinzen is
Yeah,
right there. He's
next to
second from the
Michael,
left.
second from the left, near the woman in the red shirt, the head floating above the shirt, is Kenzan Takahashi, our director of photography. He was our first hire. We only interviewed one person because he got the job immediately because of his process, which was 3D renders of the set where we block it out in advance. We were sold.
So if you can understand, if you were to take a look at the art of war, and you were to say, well, what are we talking about here? We're talking about logistics. We're talking about, feeding people. We're talking about, moving the troops. We're talking about, shooting, running the cannons. In essence, that's Kinsen in some ways, running the cannons to get the shots, so to speak. What if the mastermind is the only way of compensating for a lack of individual ability? Team building is that you are looking for people who are better than you at something that is important. It's so critical that that once you create your tribe, you give them some reason to care, and it can't just be a paycheck. When the energy flags at midnight and everybody's tired, or 1 o'clock in the morning, or worse, people are going to be saying to themselves, what is this? Are they competent? Are they letting me do my job? Are they asking me to do things they won't do? The leaders have to present a higher level and a clearer level of energy and intention, or the troops cannot follow. There's so much that we have to learn here, and it's such an amazing experience. And there are ways in which movie making is the highest form of storytelling on the planet. And Hollywood is, for all of its flaws, is the center of this for the world. So it's both amazing competition, and there is an amazing amount of talent that is available here. But man, oh man, oh man, it's getting yourself to the point where you can actually speak their language, communicate with them, and provide them with the support they need to do what they need to do in order for this vision to come into being. This is
And
a challenge.
this guy in the foreground, I don't know his name. Okay, I learned a lot of names, but there was a whole knot of people, like maybe 5 or 6 people, whose names I never did learn. People who worked lights in particular, electric, those kind of jobs. I didn't get to know all those guys because they were subcontracted to the department heads. I'm in the left-hand corner talking to Carlos, who's the VFX supervisor. Again, so lucky that he basically volunteered his time day after day after day to come to the set just to keep an eye out for where can VFX enhance this scene. Where can I tell them they've shot enough for me so that I can add my VFX later? Incredible.
Yeah, you'll notice that I'm on the exact opposite side, wearing the black shirt saying, you can say Kecer, says filmmaker. And we're trying to keep a sense of the overall pattern, of is everybody okay? Also, is everybody doing their job? What's next? What is the next piece of this that we have to do? One piece at a time. And that's, with any large project, once you've done your pre-planning, you want to set it up so that all you're doing is one piece at a time, one piece at a time, one piece at a time. It's like being exhausted, climbing while you're climbing a mountain. It's just that next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. That I can understand why people get addicted to this. I really can.
I'm gonna find
All
a good
right.
picture of you too. I'm gonna find a good picture of you commanding troops.
Okay, and while we're doing that, anybody else put their hand up? Nikki Roos, you
I
have any
did
thoughts?
not put my hand up.
I know you didn't, so I just decided to call on you.
I'm unable to be on camera today, but
Okay.
I was saying in the chat, thank you to everyone who spoke on navigating life and continuing to push your life forward while having a way of centering yourself through the process of parents' illness and death. Um, I'm I'm in that situation right now, and I was not giving myself the grace I thought I was giving myself in attempting to, not even attempting, starting to write on a regular basis, putting that process in place. Because I was much like Larry was sharing, I was becoming overwhelmed and the panic was kicking in. And even though I would stop and do the breathing that you had suggested a few weeks ago, I still could feel that like I wasn't moving forward. Even in getting my breath under control, I still felt very stuck
Okay.
in
Okay.
the
Well,
overwhelm.
allow me to say that just remembering to do the breathing, if you're just doing that, that is a major step forward, and it will take some time. I mean, it's like, you've spent decades developing the habits you have now. They're not going to change in hours. Okay, but it's going to change much more rapidly than it took to form the habit. Yes, but just the breathing by itself. So the next step after the breathing is: are you reading your goals twice a day, every morning and every night?
No, I read them in the morning. I
That's
Today
still,
reminded me that I need to add at night.
well, you understand that that's fantastic progress. Most people barely look at their goals once a year. If you're looking at them
There's a
every
special day
day,
for goals.
that is
Once a year.
hundreds of times better. That is serious progress. It doesn't feel that way to you, but I can tell you that from that perspective, you're making amazing progress. So it's just a matter of breaking your goals down into small enough pieces that you can see what to do right now, and then you just leverage yourself, all the whys in the world, to just move this one grain of sand. Just one grain of sand. It's like coming back from illness. You can barely walk, but if you can just walk a couple of steps and then rest and celebrate, you'll be stronger tomorrow. You'll be stronger tomorrow. So I'm here to be a voice in your head that says you're enough, and you're doing enough. You're doing all you can. Nobody can do better than all you can. And so all we're doing is we're giving you different resources and some perspective. But you are enough, sweetheart. And the tragedy
Yeah.
with all of us is that we've always been enough, and we live in the illusion that we're not enough. And we're here to say that there is no slightest prayer that we could do what it is that we're doing right now if we did not have a voice that shouted against the voices in our heads saying we can't do this. We weren't made for this. You aren't supposed to be here. All of that stuff. It's all there. You need to understand those are just voices, and that your intent is important enough to keep you going in spite of what the voices whisper in your ear. Does that make sense,
And
Nikki?
if I could, oh,
Yes.
Tananarive?
And yes.
sorry, just to jump in really quickly to go back to where you began, which was the writing piece. I don't know what your writing situation is, if you feel like you're on a deadline or you're just feeling like you're not fulfilling your own promises to yourself in terms of what kind of writing life you want to have right now. But I will say this, major life changes do disrupt writing. Now, some people find escape in writing. Like that's when they feel the most inspired is when everything else is chaotic. That's not everybody. That's not everybody. So absolutely do give yourself that grace. I tell people if you change jobs, it might be 6 months before you start a regular practice again. So compare that to what you're going through. And sometimes it takes a while, but you might find yourself in a place where you find comfort and escape and fun in your writing. And that's what you're looking for. If it's not serving you in that way, it's just another obligation. It's just something else that might be stressing you out, right?
I
I
would
think
su- I would suggest that you journal. If you
yes.
can't write fiction, write down the emotions that you're going through, your observations of process, the things that are happening. Just writing things down is a fantastic clarifier for your mind. That you will return, get your, if you don't have a journal, get yourself one and make it a nice one and start the process, especially when you're stuck. You write down, okay, I'm stuck today, and these are the things I'm stuck on. And that way, when we talk about, okay, identify what needs to be done, now let's, identify why you want to do it until you feel that motivation. Look at whatever the obstacle is, what is the fear that's stopping you, and, work through that stuff. One of the first, the proper use of the conscious mind, the intellect, is to enumerate and list and crunch the data in that sense. But ultimately, it'll be a matter of your heart, what you're committed to. You're committed to, giving, Larry might be committed to giving his mom a safe passage from life into death, to being the man that he's always decided to be because this is the time, to changing the world. I don't know. But your thoughts themselves are precious, and they will be the fuel that you later on use in your fiction. Tananarife, I cut you off. I'm sorry, sweetheart.
Oh no, not at all. I'm always afraid I'm cutting other people off. That was it. I hope
Okay.
that's been helpful to you. Anything we've said, Nikki?
Yes, it truly has. And I want to thank you. I don't think I've gotten out of a session with you guys yet where I don't cry a little bit. So thank you
Oh,
for that. And
That's
also,
okay.
I did want to say congratulations, on wrapping. I'm
thank
so
you.
happy for you guys. And this is helpful. It's hugely helpful. So please don't doubt that.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Well, this is good
Because
because what I'm going to say is that our goal is to make a theatrical film next year. There's going to be a ton of things that are involved in that, and we will continue to share this process as long as you feel that it is of value. If you feel that there are other things that you'd like to discuss, all you have to do is raise your hand.
I
We
have more pictures.
Oh, okay, Tananarive, show us some more pictures. We got 9 minutes to go. I would love to see some more
Yeah,
pictures from you.
so I'm not usually here for the full thing, but I do like showing pictures. So this is also set up. That tall young man in the center is our son Jason, and you might recognize the person standing to the right of him. But basically, this is just to give you also an idea of the scope of the build of this set. So a lot of those tables you see in the background, that was because basically they set up tents and tables in the front yard because that's where everybody ate. And then if you had to break that down because we needed to see the front yard in the next shot, you best believe they were fast, quick, and in a hurry about breaking down those tables and those tents. And it was really something to watch. I mean, honestly, the level of organization with breakdown and setup, a wonder to behold. Let me know, okay, I'm gonna share again. I got it, I got it. There, this is a really good shot of to show the level of preparation. Steve and I are probably trying to figure out a story problem, or if we have to cut a scene in the corner there. The man in black in the doorway is our cinematographer, DP, talking to the first AD. These are the two who are at odds, most of the time. She's quick, quick, quick. He's good, 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 and we plan this. So they were in a constant negotiation between the first AD and the cinematographer. Steve's friend Julius is just waiting with his clapper. And then the one in the very back, he's got a whole different job. He's setting up props. He's in the production department. So it's everybody just work, 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 busy little bees from the minute you get there until late at night when you go home. And that last one is, and then I'll stop showing pictures, is Steve talking to Michael, our editor, laying down the law, baby. No, no, telling him our vision and soliciting his thoughts. And there's just a bunch of photos like these, all of them conversation, 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 because that's the best way to characterize the shoot was constant puzzle solving to just try to tell a story. And all of it in service to words on a page, which is the most mind-blowing part of all.
Okay, let's take that a little further, Tananarive.
Yeah.
To service to words on a page, the words on a page service to a dream. The dream in service to a memory from Tananarive's childhood of being in a room next to her aged grandmother who's slowly dying and on a respirator in the other room. That was the generative fear of recognizing her own mortality and her helplessness to help someone that she loved.
I did love my
And
great grandmother. She was a
that's right.
storyteller. She told me, she
When
wrote
you
me. Yeah.
understand, this is one of the things I'm going to be creating a 10 commandments that boil down the most important things I've learned here. And the first commandment had to do with what Win Rosenfeld told us. He's president over at Monkey Paw, and he has been godfathering this project. We, been blessed to be able to have Zoom lunches with him, and talk to him about what's going on here. We asked for none of their resources. We weren't asking for him to hook us up with Jordan, anything like this. Win, what do you think about this? What do you feel about this? And he said, after we talked with him about a week and a half before we started filming, and he listened to everything we've been doing, and we could see that he approved of what we were up to. And he said that most of the people who come to him say they want to be showrunners, or they want to be directors or producers for the power, for the money, for the fame. That the difference with us is we want to do it to tell stories. We want to tell stories. And Tananarive, even more than me, and I mean this honestly, has what I call vertical integration. That her stories are coming from a deep well of family wisdom, multi-generational, okay, and deep well of emotion. It just goes all the way down and is rooted in that way. So that at midnight, why do I focus to get this shot? Why do I need to get this shot to make this movie? Why do I want to make this movie? To tell a story. Why do I want to tell a story? This story, because Tananarive needs to tell this story to move our family forward in terms of our career, to learn to have an experience, to support all these people around us who are trying to move their lives forward. Why is all that important? Because life is this dynamic process, and this story touches on the truth that we are mortal and we are alone, and we need to find something in ourselves that is strong enough to keep fighting when the world says no. That when you can find an emotional core to what you're doing that goes beyond the question of I want to get published, I want to build a career, I want to get rich, I want to have a book so that people will admire me, any of that stuff, all that stuff comes if you focus on what the part of it you can control, which is at every moment you want your actions to have meaning. This then, at midnight, why am I doing this? Because I want this moment to have meaning. because this is who I said I am. This is the life I said I wanted, because this wonderful woman at my side trusts me to be her partner. This is a dream that we both have. If you have to find the emotional core, okay? You have to. And in the magic formula, when we say the C is core, this is what we're talking about. The gratitude is what we're talking about. I may be tired at midnight, but I am grateful to be tired. Dear God, how many people wish they were in my position, wish they could be experiencing this fatigue and confusion and fear. You, your philosophy, your actions, your thoughts, your emotions, all have to be traveling in the same direction if you want to pop up to the next level of who you're going to be in life. You know, you're seeing us moving up to that next level. In some ways, it's kind of similar to if you'd met us before we published our first book, except the time pressure wasn't there. We could write books and then go eat ice cream. You know, it's like, but now it's like from morning until night. We have to, oh, and by the way, on the last day, we were given ice cream. Everybody on the set had ice cream. So we did stuff specifically to break tension. You tell jokes to break tension. We had little dance breaks,
Yeah, I don't think anyone got on video when we danced with our little star. Anyway, I haven't seen the footage, but we had a little dance party with her. I asked her mom what her favorite songs were, and I made a mixtape that had a lot of her favorite songs on it.
So I can relate the things that we did there to any project I've ever done in my life, in any project that you're going to face, even if it's something as sacred as helping someone you love pass, or as trivial in comparison as making a movie. That it could have been totally trivial, or we could make it a sacred obligation because everybody there was looking for a chance to step into that energy. If we create a spiral of energy and they step into it, then these people are dealing with death in their family. These people are dealing with hopes and dreams and needs, and they watched movies, and movies took them out of themselves. And now they get to be a part of that dream, and we get to be a part of that dream. And we're all together doing this. My part of this, Tananari's part of this, is to be the absolute best we can be at every moment, and to understand the meaning. What does that even mean? And so Giselle, who set us this opportunity to do a short, was hoping that we would use this to learn what it takes to do this. And I do not in any way, shape, or form take that obligation lightly. Sweetheart, anything, closing statements you'd like to make?
No, just good to see everybody. We're back and we will be continuing the weekly Zooms, and best of luck to all of you, whether you are struggling or whether you are heading into a celebratory weekend. We are hoping the best for all of you, and we'll see you again hopefully next Friday.
So please, everyone, unmute yourselves and say goodbye.
Hi,
Thank
everyone.
you
Bye,
all.
Bye,
Antonio.
Have
everyone.
It
a
was good to
wonderful
see
week.
lovely to see you all
Have a great
and see
conference,
how
Amy.
people are doing.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
And from
Love y'all, people.
the divinity within me salutes and acknowledges the divinity within each and every one of you and everyone who was on that set. Namaste.
Namaste.
Take care.
Namaste.
Bye bye.